Good day and welcome to Electrical Technology Quarter 2 for Year 2s. Your exam will be on the 10th of June 2026. What we will be handling in this session, in this video, is health and safety, first aid, hand tools, soldering, the basic principles of electricity, electrical measuring instruments, power sources, and electrical circuits and their components. Here are the workshop rules. We respect each other as learners and teachers. We do not sit on the tables, we sit on the chairs. We are never alone in a workshop or without permission. We always work neat and we are proud of our work. We do not play in the center. You do not eat or drink in the center without permission. No cell phones will be used in the center, and you will not go to the toilet within the first hour or within the last half an hour of a session. Make sure you have all you need for the day. This is electrical rules. Respect the subject and know the dangers. Make sure the power is switched off when you work on electrical equipment. Do not tamper with electricity. None of the panels board power will be switched on without a teacher. Water and electricity does not mix. Be careful when you work with electrical equipment. Do not work with electrical equipment if there is no supervision or if you don't know how to use the equipment. Health and safety, HIV and AIDS. HIV and AIDS is a human immunodeficiency virus that damages your immune system. It interferes with your body's ability to fight the organisms that cause the disease. How is it transmitted? It is spread in bodily fluids from a person that has been infected with the HIV virus to another virus, and mostly through unprotected sex. What is substance abuse? Substance abuse is also known as drug abuse. It is a pattern of use of a drug in which the user consumes the substance in amounts or with methods which are harmful to themselves or to others. Unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. An unsafe act is anything that the worker does wrong that endangers him or the people around him. Unsafe condition is when the workplace is not safe for you to work in. Basic first aid. First of all, what is first aid? First aid is the assistance given to any person suffering a sudden illness or an injury, with care provided to preserve life, prevent the condition from worsening. So you don't want a person to become worse in the condition it is in, and to promote recovery so you can recover faster. Components of a first aid kit. In the first aid kit we have plasters, sterile gauze dressings, sterile eye dressings, triangular bandages, crepe roll bandages, safety pins, disposable gloves, tweezers, scissors, alcohol-free cleansing wipes, sticky tape, a thermometer, skin rash cream, painkillers, cough medicine, antihistamine tablets, distilled water, and eye wash. When somebody is electrocuted, there are certain signs and symptoms to observe. So this is what the person would look like when he's electrocuted. There will be notable burns on the skin, and there will be periods of unconsciousness, tingling, paralysis, vision, hearing, or speech problems. He will be confused. He will have difficult breathing. He can have seizures or symptoms of seizures. Burns are severe, usually at the point where the burn happened, at the point of contact. Injuries to the body as a result of being thrown away from electrical installation. So if you touch electricity and it throws you away, you can fall and injure yourself. Pain or deformity at the point of contact. There can be mouth burns, and there can be feed burns, especially from lightning. The medical treatment of a person that's been electrocuted. When somebody is electrocuted, they obtain injuries, and those injuries need to be treated. Minor burns to be treated with an antibiotic ointment. Severe burns may require surgery. Cover the eye with an eye patch if there's an eye injury and get it examined by a doctor. Broken bones require splinting, and injuries should be checked out by a medical doctor as well. Burn wound treatment. If somebody has got a burn wound, you run cool water over the wounded area. You use a mild soap water to clean the wound area. You only apply antibiotic ointment over the area if there is no opening in the skin. Very important. There cannot be opening in the skin when you apply the ointment. Wrap the affected area loosely with a sterile gauze. You just loosely, and you get medical help. If there's a bone fracture because of the electrocution, do not move a person unnecessarily. Call for medical help. Stop any bleeding. Immobilize the injured area. If the arm is broken, immobilize it so it cannot move. We are going over to soldering. The principles of soldering. Soldering is a process in which two or more items are joined together by melting and putting a filler metal solder into the joint. The filler metal having a lower melting point than the joining metal. Unlike welding, soldering does not involve melting of the workpiece. In brazing, the workpiece metal also does not melt, but the filler metal is one that melts at a higher temperature than in soldering. In the past, nearly all solder contained lead, but with environmental and health concerns, they've increasingly dictated the use of lead-free alloys for electric and plumbing purposes. Here are the 4 steps to make a solder joint. First, you can heat the pad and the leg of the part for 2 to 3 seconds. Then you're gonna keep on heating it while you add solder. You're gonna continue heating for another 1 to 2 seconds. You're gonna remove the solder tip and you let it cool down. Do not blow it cold. These examples of different types and deformities when you are soldering. This is how a perfect solder joint should look like. Here you have applied too much solder. Here you didn't give enough solder. This is a cold joint, meaning you only heated either the leg or either the pad. You didn't heat them both, so the solder only attached to the one. Here you have applied too much heat for too long, and this is a short circuit. It's supposed to be 2 separate perfect joints, but you added too much solder and the 2 are joined now, and it's going to create a short circuit. Heat the component leg for again 2 to 3 seconds, add the solder, continue heating for a second or 2. And when a pyramid shape is formed, take away the soldering tip and let it cool down without blowing. Here's some pictures of cold soldering. It came loose and that electric part will not work anymore. And some more photos of too much solder and not enough solder and the perfect joint. These are also electrical joints that we make and that we afterwards solder, and we do not apply in excess of soldering wire, only enough to make it nice and strong. We're going over to hand tools that you can use in the workshops. First of all, the side cutter. The function of a side cutter is used to cut wire and to substitute for a set of pliers, so we only cut electrical wires with it. We clean it regularly, we oil it regularly, and we check the handles for cracks and cuts. The long nose plier is used to grip small objects, reach in awkward places, and in electrical we use it to hold wires and to attach wires. Do not use it as a hammer. Do not use pliers on nuts and bolts. Do not bend too stiff wire with it, and do not expose it to heat or to the elements outside. Clean it regularly, oil it regularly, and check the handle insulation for cracks and cuts. Combination plier, it's got a combination of functions. It's pliers that's used for gripping, for twisting, for bending, and for cutting of wire. Do not use it as a hammer. Do not use it on nuts and bolts. Do not bend too stiff wire with it, and do not expose it to the heat elements. Clean it, oil it, and check the insulation for cracks and cuts. The flat screwdriver, the tool is used to tighten or loosen slotted grooves with a single groove in the head. Always use a correct screwdriver with a screw, and use a screwdriver with slotted handle to prevent your hand from slipping. You will see the slotted parts in the handle so that your hand can have a good grip. You have to repair and bend broken tips, and you check the handle for cracks. Is how you maintain it. A Phillips screwdriver or a star point screwdriver is to tighten or loosen screws with a cross head. Always use a correct screwdriver for the screw, the size, and use a screwdriver with a slotted handle to prevent your hand from slipping. Repair bent or broken tips and check the handle for cracks. Wire strippers, we get a lot of different types of wire strippers. A wire stripper is a small handheld device used to strip the electrical insulation from electrical wires, the plastic on the copper wires. We do not use it for cutting wires. We keep our fingers away from the blades, it's very sharp, and we do not use too big of a wire for the stripper that's selected. Different blades comes in different sizes. Choose the correct blade for the correct size of the wire stripper. The ruler, steel ruler. A ruler is a line gauge to measure distance or to rule straight lines. If you want to draw straight lines, cannot be thrown, it's not a weapon, and clean it regularly. Measuring tape. A measuring tape is a flexible ruler. Do not throw the tape measure because it's a sensitive measuring instrument. Be careful of cuts from the metal tape on the side, it's very sharp. Clean the tape regularly and don't wind the tape out too far. Don't pull it out too far. Engineer square. It's used in metalworking and in woodworking. It is used to make a square workpiece, to make sure a workpiece is square and you can scribe lines at a 90-degree angle. The metal blade can cut you, it's very strong and thin. Clean it regularly and oil it to preserve it. The scriber, we use a scriber with the engineer square. It's a hand tool that is used in metalworking to mark lines on a workpiece or on metal. The tool is very sharp. Do not poke somebody with a tool. Do not throw it at somebody. Sharpen the tip if it's blunt, and use oil to clean it and to preserve it. PVC bending spring. We use a bending spring and PVC conduit pipe to make bends to prevent or disturb or crease the pipe when it's manually bending a pipe. If you just bend the pipe without a bending spring, it makes creases that you do not want. Do not bend the spring without it being in a pipe, and do not whip or beat somebody with a bending spring. Keep it clean, oil it regularly. The hacksaw is a fine tooth saw originally made for cutting metal, but we use it in electrical to cut conduit pipe. Select the correct blade for the material. Insert the blade with the teeth pointing forward. Keep the blade rigid, means keep the blade stiff by adjusting it on the tip. Cut using steady strokes and use the entire length of the blade while you are cutting. You can replace the blade when it's blunt, and you have to clean it regularly and make sure that the frame is not broken. Engineers-wise, it is attached to a workbench. It's used to hold and secure material when you want to work with that material. The device must be mounted on a workbench. You don't have to overtight material. You clean it regularly, you oil it regularly, and you paint it to prevent it from rusting. The fish tape, it's a tool used to route new wiring through walls and electrical conduit pipe. Wear gloves, very important. Use a lubricant and clean the metal strip regularly. Soldering, the soldering iron. The soldering iron is a low temperature connection tool that is used to semi-permanently combine wires or components. So it combines wires or components semi-permanently, meaning it can be detached. Don't touch the metal tip. Use it away from the body. Don't use it to burn other materials like plastic. Clean the tip regularly, and you have to apply solder at the end of the use. When you're finished using it, apply solder on the tip. So it's maintaining a good, healthy tip. Solder sucker. We use this tool to suck up all excess solder when we are busy soldering. Do not use it as a hammer. Clean the sucker regularly and check the mechanisms like the spring and the leathers inside. Helping hand. This tool is used to hold wires and small components while we are soldering it. Be careful when you are working with it. Clean it regularly and check its mechanisms that it is in good condition. Utility knife, Stanley knife or a carpet knife. A utility knife is used for general cutting and utility purposes. Cut away from your body. Do not cut at somebody. Move your fingers away from the blade when cutting. You can change the blade when it's blunt and clean it regularly. Multimeter. A multimeter of a multi-tester is an electronic measuring instrument that combines several measuring functions in one unit. It's got a lot of different areas that it can measure. That's why it's called a multimeter or a multi-tester. Be careful when you're testing power. Do not change selection or the switch while you are testing, so you cannot turn that knob while you are testing. Do not use the probes to stab somebody. Make sure you know how to measure something before you use it. Make sure where the probes need to be inserted on the multi-tester. Check the batteries and switch off after you use that. A reamer. A reamer is a tool for widening and finishing drill holes. So after you drill a hole, you can widen it, make it bigger, or you can smoothen it out with a reamer. Keep material secured in a bench vise, very important. Clean the debris away and oil it regularly. The hickey or a pipe bender, it's used to bend pipes and to produce finished parts. It's like 90-degree bends that you want to make when installing electrical cables. To cut the pipes to the correct sizes, do not overbend it. Secure the pipe in a workbench, very important. Clean it after you use it. Check the spring mechanism, very important, and prevent it from rusting. The tap and a die set. This is a tap. That is a die. It's used to make bolts and nuts. And thread into a block of material. A tap and die set is used to cut thread on the inside or on the outside of pipes, as well as into solid metals. First of all, determine the correct size for the pipe that you want to cut thread on. Choose the correct tap or die head. Secure the pipe in a bench, very important. Use lubrication while you are tapping. and clean the tap and the die after you've used it. The flat file, it's a hand file used to smooth out rough surfaces. Place a material in a bench vise before you use the flat file. Use the correct type of file for the material. Use both hands while you are filing. Clean the file using a steel brush. The measure. The function of a measure is a device used to measure electrical leakage in a wire. If you have a wire on the ground and it's got a fault on it, we use the measure to determine where is that fault underground. Know how to use the tool before you're using it. Read the instructions. Place the probes in the correct places. The probes, the leads. Choose the correct setting. Choose the correct setting before you measure, and be very careful when working with live electricity. You can check the batteries and inspect the probes regularly to maintain it. The concrete drill bit. Concrete drill bit's got a funny tip that you don't see in other drill bits. That's how you distinct from a normal drill bit to a concrete drill bit. These are used to drill masonry and concrete in combination with a hammer drill. So you drill into walls and cement floors, but you have to use the hammer function on your drill. How to use it? You could disconnect the power of the drill, loosen the lockhead, remove the bit, insert a new bit, and then you tighten the lockhead so that the drill bit is secure. Metal drill bits. These are used to drill non-ferrous metals. They have a round but sharpened tip, nice round but sharpened tip, and you use it the same way. Wood drill bits, these are made for drilling woods. It's got a tip, a centering tip on each one to help you to start your hole at the correct place. They have a long centering tip with two pre-cutting spurs and are well suited for drilling cleanly through wood. So all of these drills can drill right through wood, make a hole. We're going over to the principles of electricity and electrical measuring instruments. The atomic theory. All material and matter consists of small particles, and these particles are called molecules, and molecules consist of different atoms. The atoms are the building blocks for electrical current flow. The atoms are comprised of, inside the atom you will find protons. These atoms consist of a central core, and inside the central core we find protons, that is positive, and we find neutrons, that is neutral. The core of the center of the atom has got a positive charge of electricity and is surrounded by the equal number of electrons which have a negative charge. In the normal state of the electrons, they will move around the central protons and do not become detached. Similar to the planets revolving around the sun. When a potential difference, a PD, or a voltage is applied between the two ends of the material, some of these electrons become detached and move to the next atom, and so on. So electrons can move from one atom to another atom when voltage is applied over that material. This means that there is movement of electrons along the material. It is this movement of electrons from the atom to another atom that makes the flow of electricity possible. Then we've got two different types of electrical flow. We've got conventional flow and we've got electron flow. Conventional flow is that we assume that the current flows out of the positive part of a battery through the circuit and into the negative terminal of the battery again. So you're going from positive, the outside of the positive of the battery, through the circuit and into the negative terminal back. So it's flowing from positive to negative. That's conventional flow. Electron flow is what actually happens. Electrons flow outside the negative part of the battery, then through the circuit and into the positive terminal of the battery source again. So the two directions of flow is different. The one flow from positive to negative outside the battery, and the one flow from negative to positive outside the battery. The only reason why we are talking about these two different flows is that if we want to use the right hand rule, we have to use it when we are talking about conventional current, and if we want to use the left hand rule, we have to use it with electron flow. So for conventional current we use right hand rule, and for electron flow we use the left hand rule. You can draw a simple diagram just to see if you are up to date. A 12 volt battery, a 100 ohm bulb and a switch, and you can indicate electron flow. Electron flow means from the negative of the battery through the circuit into the positive of the battery. Ohm's law. In any electrical circuit, the current that runs through is directly proportional to the supply voltage and indirectly proportional to the resistance of the circuit at the constant temperature. It means when there's current flowing, it is equal to the voltage of the circle and indirectly or opposite proportional to the resistance of that circuit. Electrical measuring instruments, a multimeter. Most multimeters are able to measure the following. It can measure DC volts, DC current, that's for batteries, and AC volts, the power that comes out the wall socket, and it also can measure resistance ohms. These options are further divided into different series of scales to be more flexible. So on a multimeter there's different scales for volts, different scales for resistance, and different scales for current that you can measure it in. Multimeters you get available in two types, analog type and digital type. Analog is where you can see the needle moving and you have to make your own reading, and digital is a display like a watch, the hours of a watch. Analog uses a dial screen, that's the centerpiece that's moving. It requires skill to read the correct value, and the digital types is what we are using in our schools. It's got a LCD display, it just shows the value directly so you can read it. Here are the main parts of a multimeter. It's got a display, it's got a rotary switch to select the functions, it's got a 10 amp DC terminal if you want to measure amps until 10 amps, it's got a volt function, ohm function, and a milliamps terminal, and it's got a common terminal where you put the black wire in. The meter is very sensitive. The meter has an effect on a circuit when it's connected because of its internal resistance. We're not going to go deeper into it, but digital multimeters typically have a very high impedance of around 10 mega ohm. We can use the multimeter as a voltmeter. We have to set it up before we do measuring. We connect the red test probe, the red wire, to the VMA terminal and the black wire to the common terminal. We select DC volts or AC volts that we want to measure before the time, and we start with the higher scale in that volt function, and we can go down and down and down with that scale until a suitable area is chosen. connect the test cables in parallel or across the component. So across the component, your two leads that you're going to put to measure volts. Do not change the scales while the probes are connected, so you cannot change the selector while you are measuring. Never measure in series if you want to measure volts, but only in parallel, means across, over the component. Ensure the scale is set to volt and the meter is connected in parallel. To sum it up, we can also use the multimeter as an amp meter. We connect the red test probe again to volts milliamps terminal, and we connect it to the 10 amp terminal if we think that's going to go up till 10 amps. And the black cable is still again at the common. We choose a DC current scale. We start high and then we can scale down. We connect the probes in series. Very important, connect them in series when we measure current. The current value will be directly displayed onto the LCD screen, and make sure the ammeter is connected in series, in line. We can also use the multimeter as an ohm meter. We connect the red test cable to the V ohm milliamp terminal and the black one to the common terminal. We identify the ohm symbol on the function scale. We turn the knob until 2 ohms. Ensure that the circuit is disconnected from supply, so there cannot be electricity flow while we want to measure ohms. Connect the probes in parallel across the resistor. Start with a high resistance scale on a multimeter, and then you can scale down if need be. And then you read the resistance directly from the LCD. Ensure that the scale is set to ohm, and make sure the meter is connected in parallel across the component. We can also use the multimeter as a continuity meter to test electrical cables to see if they are broken. Again, the red one we connect to the V ohm milliamps terminal and the black one to the common. We identify the Wi-Fi sign, if I can put it like that, the Wi-Fi symbol on the function scale. Ensure that the circuit is disconnected from supply. Electricity cannot flow inside it. The meter will emit a beep. It will beep if there is electrical flow, means that cable is 100% correct to use. And if there's no beep, it indicates it's an open circuit. That cable is broken somewhere. Going over to electrical symbols that we use in electric. First of all is the voltmeter, capital V in a circle, a loudspeaker with its symbol, a battery. The battery has got 2 cells indicating it's a battery. We've got the closed switch, an open switch, electrical motor with a capital M. We have the ground symbol, a symbol for resistors, and the symbol for coils. We're going over to power sources, energies. In physics, energy is the capacity for doing work. So energy is what makes everything work. It may exist in different types of forms. It can be potential energy, kinetic energy, thermal energy, electrical energy, chemical energy, and nuclear energy, or in various other forms. There are, moreover, heat and work. When energy is in a process of being transferred from one body to another body, heat is created. So the moment the energy transforms from one body to another body, heat is always created. After it's been transferred, the energy is always designated according to its nature. Hence, heat transferred may become a thermal energy. For example, electrical heater. We can use electrical energy to make thermal energy so that we can use the heat to heat us up. While the work is done, may it manifest itself in a form of mechanical energy. Let's say you have a drill and you use the drill for a long time, you will feel the drill is getting warmer and warmer. But we are only interested in electrical energy, or energy that can be transformed into electrical energy. So electric energy that is used in our daily lives, we pay for it using this energy. The way we get billed for it is calculated by the use of an energy meter, a smart meter. This meter measures the power consumption over a period of time, and it's measuring it in units called kilowatt hours. So the electricity that we use is being measured in our homes, and that's how we get billed, and we pay a fixed rate for that number of units that we used. Alternative energies, the world is changing because of the effect of the greenhouse gases, which cause the earth to warm up. These gases are the result of fossil fuel emissions that's coming out of cars exhaust systems, which give off harmful carbon dioxide, and the scientists are working endlessly to find and develop new alternative forms for these energy sources, so that we can use other cleaner energy sources, and these resources will ultimately lower the dependency of fossil fuels, so that we can use less fossil fuels, and slowing down and ultimately reversing the effect of global warming. So we want to get away from fossil fuels, so we're looking at other methods for energy. And these other energies we divide into two categories: renewable energy and non-renewable energy. Examples: renewable energy is sources that we can use over and over and over again. Solar power is the first one. As long as you have solar panels and sunlight, it will create electricity. It's very clean. Hydroelectricity, we use in dams. As long as there's a flow of water, it spins at turbines and generate electricity, and can be used over and over. Wind turbines, as long as there is wind, the turbines will create electrical energy. Fuel cells in cars, electric cars, is a renewable energy. Geothermal energy, the heat inside the earth, can be used because the heat will always be there inside the earth, so it's renewable. Marine energy is where we use waves, the waves movement forward and backward to create energy, electrical energy or electricity. And then we've got two non-renewable energy sources. The first one is nuclear energy and fossil fuels. Nuclear energy gets less the more you use it, so you have to get new nuclear material. And the fossil fuels, the ones your petrol tank is empty, it's empty, you have to get some petrol again. And then lastly, the definition of energy sources. Fossil fuels, the definition of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are fuels like coal and oil, and those manufactured, refined from crude oil. So we use crude oil and we refine it, we make it better, and from crude oil we get diesel, petrol, and paraffin, for example. There's a lot of other stuff that we also get. Advantages of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels can generate a large amount of electricity at a single location. Good luck for studying. Enjoy this exam.